Hi, my name is Erin Catrette, and I want to tell you about the anatomy and functions of the eye. And I want to get it started off with the outermost transparent protective layer of the eye. It's called the cornea. And the cornea is where we get the majority of light refraction, focal strength of the eye. Its curvature is where we get our refraction. Next, I want to come here. This is the aqueous humor. And the aqueous humor is the watery fluid that fills the anterior segments of the eye and provides the nutrition for the surrounding parts. Here is the ciliary body or ciliary muscles. And the ciliary body control the focusing of the eye, causing the lens to change shape, and this would be our lens, but we'll get to that. Here we have the suspensory ligament. And the suspensory ligament is the long thin fibers that connect the lens to the ring of ciliary muscles here. Here we have the lens. The lens is the transparent structure in the eye that focuses the light by changing its curvature. It provides secondary refraction after the cornea. It's located behind the iris. Often as we age, the lens can become yellow or sort of foggy, and that would be cataracts. Here we have the pupil. The pupil is the round hole in the center of the iris through which light passes. The pupil is black because there's not very much light coming from the back of dark chamber behind it. The pupil is actually a hole, not something you can touch, and I always thought it would be like a disc like the lens, but it's not. Here is the iris. The iris is the colored part of the eye that contains the pupil. It controls the amount of light entering the eye by enlarging and minimizing the size of the pupil. I always thought it was the pupil that enlarged and retracted itself, but it's actually the iris that does it. Here we have the canal of Schlemm. And the canal of Schlemm is a lymphatic-like vessel in the eye that collects aqueous humor from the anterior chamber and delivers it to the epicyral blood vessels via the aqueous veins. And on the inside of the canal, nearest the aqueous humor, it's covered by a tabular meshwork. This region makes the greatest contribution of outflow resistance of the aqueous humor. A lot of times, as we age, the canal of Schlemm can become clogged and the flow of aqueous humor gets slowed. This builds a lot of pressure in the eye, which actually that pressure can cause glaucoma. Here we have the conjunctiva. And the conjunctiva is the thin lining inside of the eyelid that covers the sclera. It helps lubricate the eye by producing mucus and tears. It does not produce as much mucus and tears as the lacrimal gland, but it definitely contributes. Up here we have the ora serrata. And the ora serrata is the serrated junction between the retina and the ciliary body, and it marks the transition from the simpler non-photosensitive area of the retina to the more complex multi-layered photosensitive area of the retina. And moving in towards the center of the eye, here we have the vitreous humor. And the vitreous humor is a clear jelly-like substance that fills the posterior segment of the eye behind the lens. I have always thought this was called eye jelly. I now know that that is not a proper science term. It is called the vitreous humor. Since we're talking about the body of the eye, I want to come down here. This area right here is called the sclera. And the sclera is the tough, white, fibrous outer protective layer of the eye. It keeps everything inside the eye safe. Then we have this black segment here, this thicker black layer. This is the choroid. And the choroid is the layer between the retina and the sclera, consisting of blood vessels that provide nourishment to the retina. This area right here with all these dots is the retina. And the retina is the inner lining of the back of the chamber of the eye that contains all the layers of nerve cells that receive light rays that enter through the pupil. And it converts these light rays into electrical impulses, which are relayed to the brain via the optic nerve. So a lot of the times whenever people get diabetic retinopathy, it is caused by high blood pressure that causes damage to the blood vessels in the retina. The retina bleeds, causing blurred vision. Here we have the fovea centralis. And the fovea centralis, how is the best way to say this? It's kind of the thinned out little disc-like area of the retina that consists almost exclusively of cone photoreceptors, which provide high visual acuity. And at the base of that, we have the macula. The macula is specialized for high acuity vision. That's where we get all of our main focus. Here we have the optic disc, which is also called the blind spot. And the optic disc is the point of exit for the ganglion axon cells leaving the eye. Because there's no rods or cones overlying the optic disc, it corresponds to a small psychological blind spot in each eye. And finally, moving up here to this piece here, is the big guy, the optic nerve. And the optic nerve is kind of a bundle of fibers that carry vision-related impulses from the retina to the brain. It's the highway for the electric impulses to get to the brain. Well, this is my diagram of the eye. Thank you for listening.